Hey, everybody, my name is Michael Pedone. I'm the founder of salesbuzz.com. And today we're going to be talking about how to sell with confidence. So if you're in today's session, if you're here in today's meeting, what must have attracted you is that picking up the phone can sometimes be challenging. Sometimes that phone can feel like a 25-pound weight. You don't want to pick it up anymore, right? So I'm going to show you what I did, what I learned a long time ago as a straight commission sales rep to overcome that challenge and to have the phone as an ally and to make a lot of money with it. So with that being said, let me go ahead and I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go ahead and get started. Just bear with me for a second. All right, let's pull up. Everybody can see this? Let me pull up that chat box here. We good? Everybody can see that, right? All right. So how to sell with confidence. Let's just get started here. Again, first name, my name is Michael Pedone. The goal of today's session is to teach you a step-by-step phone sales strategy that will have you picking up the phone and selling with confidence. This is critical today where so many people are, it used to be where so many people were afraid to pick up the phone. And now I think there's like a newer generation of sales reps coming in that they're not even taught to pick up the phone. They're trying to use social selling tools, which is fine. And it has a place. But the problem is they're making mistakes through sending LinkedIn messages or through LinkedIn chats or their own emails out there that they're saying these sales emails, these cold emails. They're making the same mistakes that if they tried those on the phone, it would fail as well. And the only difference is when you send a text or you send a LinkedIn connection request, or if you send a cold email and it doesn't do the trick, you do not feel the sting or the pain of that rejection as if you made a phone call, correct? And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't use the phone today is that they're tired of hearing things like, no thanks, no understood, we're all set, we already use somebody. They get that rejection and they don't want to touch that. It's like touching a hot stove, right? So now they're using these other tools out there. The problem is, in my opinion, from what I see, is they're making the same mistakes in those other platforms that they were on the phone. So they're still going to get rejection, but they're not going to feel the sting of that until it comes time to them get laid off, right? There's a lot of sales layoffs going on. There's lots of reasons why there's sales layoffs going on, but one of them is if you're not producing at the highest level and cuts need to come down, if you're not in that top echelon, that 30%, you could be in jeopardy, right? Well, you need to make sure you're using all avenues to go ahead and generate revenue, and that includes the phone. So with that being said, and I know a lot of people don't like to cold call, but let's talk about what a cold call is. First of all, the definition of a cold call is contacting any prospect that is not currently raising their hand. Does that make sense? Or anybody disagree with that? The definition of a cold call is contacting any prospect or client that is not currently raising their hand. Now, why did I say client? Because here's the thing, you can have an existing account, okay? And let's say you want to upsell them, or they haven't bought from you in a while and you're going to reach back out to them. Just because you have an established relationship with them, if you're calling to see if there's a sales opportunity there and they're not raising their hand, even if you know them, it's still a cold call because they weren't raising their hand. Make sense? Got it? Nothing wrong with that, but you want to go ahead and know what it is. You want to properly identify it. Why do you want to properly identify it? Because you want to use the right strategy. We good? I know that can be a tricky one for a lot of people, right? You like pump the brakes a little bit, but let me just say it again. I'm going to use the chat box. Even if you have an existing relationship with somebody, but you're calling them out of the blue to sell them something, that would still fall as a definition of a cold call because they were not raising their hand. Are we okay with that? So the definition of a cold call is contacting any client or prospect that is not raising their hand. Okay. The definition of a warm call is contacting a prospect or client that is raising their hand. So with that being said, what do these two types of calls, cold call and warm call, what do they have in common? What's in common with the two? Who said it first? I think Anthony said it first, right? They both require you to pick up the phone to have a conversation, agreed? Whether it's cold or warm, inbound, doesn't matter. Yeah. If it's an inbound lead and they fill out a form, it's a warm lead and it comes in your CRM and you get notified that, hey, you have a warm lead, you still have to pick up the phone to contact them. If you're prospecting, whether it's an existing account or a straight up, a new business, you still have to pick up the phone to contact them, right? Okay. Now, why is it easier to call existing accounts than new prospects? Why is it easier for you as a sales rep? You still have to cold call, right? But you have an existing account, so you want to see if you can sell them some more stuff. Why is it easier to call them? All right, some of you are saying familiarity. You already have a relationship with them. Okay, I think we need to dig a little bit deeper. All of those things that you guys said, there's trust there, all that stuff, right? That stuff is true. You already have a relationship with them, etc. However, even those are surface level answers. Isn't the reality, the real reason why it's easier to call them is because you have more confidence in that one. You have more confidence to pick up the phone because of some of the reasons you just mentioned. You already have a relationship with them. You spoke with them before, right? They were friendly to you, what have you. Does that make sense? So it really comes down to it's easier for you to make those calls to existing accounts because you're more confident in that call. Are we good? I want to make sure we didn't freeze up again. Yep. All right. So confidence, a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's abilities or qualities. Think about that. I'll say it again. The confidence, the definition is a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's abilities or qualities. When you are confident in what you are about to do, you can move forward with it, right? So when it comes to cold calling, if you are more confident in that, you take away the fear, the call reluctance, because you're confident in it. Now you're going to start making more calls. You're going to start making more money. So if you're more confident in your abilities to cold call and close new business, it's fair to say you would make more cold calls, right? All right. So now, Ryan, I see you're saying your comment there. Current client already familiar, right? You're already familiar with the value proposition. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, but let's just give you the benefit down and say they are. Again, if you go one level deeper, where is your confidence coming from? It's not that they're familiar with your value prop, right? It's that you have less fear of being rejected because of that confidence you're getting of them being familiar with you, right? So you always want to go down that little bit deeper, right? There's something I learned a long time ago, is like the 5 whys. And I think this came from like the Toyota management. Somebody would have to go find out, but really what it is like when there was a problem, they would ask at least why 5 times. So they go, if there's a problem, why did that happen? Well, that happened because of this. Okay, why did this happen? Well, that happened because of this. Okay, why did that happen? Well, that happened because of this. Okay, why did that happen? And they would get to the root cause, and then that's how they would fix it, optimize it, streamline everything, and not avoid those things. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like the same thing here. All right, with that being said, let's move on to the next thing. So how do you gain confidence when it comes to cold calling? This is the big question. This is why we're all here, right? How do you gain confidence when it comes to cold calling? Confidence is tied to performance. If past performance falls short of expectations, confidence is going to remain low. Right? Confidence is tied to performance. So if past performance falls short of expectations, confidence remains low. That's why when you started to cold call, and it could have been 100 dials, it could have been 10 dials, it could have been 3 dials, it could have been 1 dial, whatever your barometer is, you reached a certain level, you didn't have the performance of your own expectations. It fell short of that. And now the phone, like, I don't want to touch that. Let me send some emails. Let me research the prospect. Let me send them a LinkedIn chat. Let me see if I can send them a text, rinse, repeat. And sure, you're being busy and you might get some responses here and there. But at the end of the day, are you closing business? Are you bringing in, and if you're not the closer, are you bringing in enough potential new business opportunities for the closers to close? All right. Sales is a very easy game to measure. At the end of the day, you could have all these metrics that you're doing, but at the end of the day, at the end of that, the last day of the month, if the company didn't hit its numbers, there's going to be problems. So it's very important that no matter what you're doing, you want to focus on the activities that are going to give you the highest percentage chance of hitting your numbers. So with that being said, part of that is going to be making those outbound calls. With that, and I do want to hit the pause button here. I don't want you guys making cold calls all day if you don't have to. Let me be very clear on that. I do not want you making cold calls all day. If you have a marketing system in place where you're getting enough pre-qualified inbound leads, sure, you still have to pick up the phone and call them. So you're going to use the same process I'm going to be teaching you, right? But I prefer that. The problem is that low-hanging fruit tends to dry up, correct? You guys still with me? Right? We good? All right. So if those inbound leads are not coming in, you have to know how to pick up the phone. And a lot of times what it is you have an influx of inbound leads, you grab all the low-hanging fruit that you can, and things die down, but you did not close every one of those leads that originally came in. You grabbed what you could. The rest of those leads went cold. Now you're waiting for more, they're not coming in. One strategy is let me go back, right? One, you should always keep prospecting. Agreed, Rex, right? But then one of the things too is you can always go back to some of those leads that were once hot that are now not. But you have to have the confidence to pick up the phone to see if there's some else sales opportunities there. And by the way, they might have been interested. Wasn't the right time. They moved on. Other things happened. But for all you know, a trigger event happens. And now if somebody would have reached out to them, or if somebody would have reached out to them the right way and not just hope that they were a lay down, but actually do their sales job, engage with them, ask them some questions, and then create an opportunity, now you're really selling. And that gets you through the times when those inbound leads are low. This is what it means to be a real sales rep, in my opinion. Okay, so with that being said, how do you increase performance? You increase performance by learning, applying, and mastering new techniques proven to work consistently. This is the key. When you're in sales, you have to learn techniques that are proven to work consistently across the board. One of the biggest myths, I would say, when it comes to sales training is like, what do you know about my industry? You wouldn't have to know anything about an industry to know the basics of selling. The basics of selling carry over from industry to industry to industry. Yes, each company and industry has its own unique situation, right? Because you have your own unique problems that your solution solves. Your consumers have a unique problem and you have a unique solution that solves that for them. Totally get that. However, the way your consumer will make decisions is the same as if you're selling water supplies to logistics, to transportation, SaaS software, right? The basic sales 101 process is the same. The problem is, it seems like it's a lost art. Like nobody's teaching basics of phone sales anymore. It blows my mind. And when I say about when it comes to mastering new techniques that are proven to work consistently, that's the key. Proven to work consistently. It's as a new sales rep, I kind of feel for you guys, because when I first got into sales, yeah, and I'm not going to get into that. I had to walk uphill and snow twice, right? But let's just go back. When I got into sales, there was a phone and a phone book. Go make some money, right? And you could only really learn from those in your group that were, if you were smart, you only listened and paid attention to whoever the top dogs were, right? Because everybody has advice. And I would see when new people get hired, and they would gravitate to certain people that weren't on the top, and they would take their advice. And now it's just misery loves company. You have to be smart enough to only take advice from people that are proven to be successful consistently at it. Well, the reason why I was going to say I kind of feel for a lot of new sales reps, because they come in, they get on LinkedIn, everybody has advice. They see a bunch of likes, and they think, well, they must know what they're talking about. Yet they're sharing a technique that just happened to work 1 out of 1,000 times for that person. Now they're posting about it. I mean, that does happen, right? How many times have you listened to a technique, tried it, and it failed miserably, right? And where everybody else was like saying, hey, this sounds great. You have to be guarded on what you allow into your sales here, into your sales toolbox. So test it, sure, but question it as well beforehand. Are we good? Everybody with me? I want to make sure this thing didn't cut out again. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's move on here. So what I'm going to show you now is I have this thing. It's, you can call it a roadmap. I just call it a one-page sales call strategy. I'm going to walk you through it. And so I'm going to switch out here. So this is what it looks like right here, but I know this would be hard to see. So I'm going to just bear with me while I pull that up on another. Here it is. All right. You guys can still see this? You see it larger right here? Says the one-page sales strategy. Yep. All right. Perfect. I used to use WebEx for this stuff, and WebEx was a lot cleaner, but now we're all switched over to Zoom, so it is what it is. But with that being said, all right. So let's talk about this. First of all, if you want to sell with confidence, you have to, if it's easy to get things back to the basics. So look at it this way. Every time you pick up the phone, right? Every time you pick up the phone, you're in the batter's box. Look at it that way. Now, if you're in the batter's box, what is your job? Especially since, baseball is just starting, right? I'm more of a hockey guy, but let's just use this because the analogy works. So if you're in the batter's box, you got the bat in your hand. What is your objective? Okay, well, look at this. I see get on base, put the ball in play. Those are like the two most common ones. Make contact. Okay, somebody's going back to Pee Wee days. Just make contact, right? Somebody say hit the ball. Somebody said home run. Okay, so first of all, look at all the different answers that we have. They're very similar, right? They're all in the same zip code, if you will. But if you take some of that advice the wrong way, you're going to be in trouble. So watch this. This is what my objective is, I think, if you're playing baseball. Now I'm going to show you how it relates to sales. You have to get to first base first, correct? You have to safely get to first base first. Even if you hit a double, hell, even if you hit a home run, even if you hit a grand slam, you still have to run and touch all the bases in order safely, correct? So if you're in the batter's box and you hit a double, you can't run from the batter's box across the pitcher's mound to second base, correct? You still have to go to first base first and touch first base. Yes? Does that make sense? So if you want to take the mystery out of selling by phone, look at it this way. It's like, my first objective is I got to get to first base first. Well, okay, what does first base mean? First base means I've piqued the prospect's interest and gained permission to continue the call. What does that mean? It means I had an opening. First of all, you guys know what an opening value statement is? It's the 5 to 15 seconds of what you say after hello, my name is. Right? Got it? So whatever you say after hello, my name is, it piques their interest so much that they'll go, yeah, I have a second to talk. And now you're on first base. Got it? Can I give you an example? You want to hear how I do it? Okay, so watch this. Let's say I'm cold calling a prospect. You ready? First of all, you have to know your audience. Okay, so if we have to go to pre-sales 101, right? You should know your audience, right? Your ICP, your ideal customer profile. If you're new at the company if you're just starting and you're in this webinar now and you're at the new company, first thing you have to know is who's our target audience? What makes them to be pre-qualified as a suspect? If you ever look at all the deals that a company's ever closed and you take certain basic data, you'll see a pattern. You'll see certain locations, company size, annual revenue as a basis, right? But then you also want to know what are the top 3 problems that company would have to have in order for them to be interested in our solutions, okay? To me, this is pre-sales 101. This is the basics of basics. Has nothing to do with techniques. This is just how sales is. You should know, right, what problems your solution solves. Remember, every business is only in business because their product or service or their solution solves a problem for somebody else that can afford to pay for it. Make sense? So you should know what your ICP is and build a list surrounding that. Okay. So for me, my ICP, and it varies, right? But at the end of the day, I'm calling companies primarily in the US that have sales teams who are struggling with phone skills right now. They're having some call reluctance issues. So that could be a small business. If it's a small business, I'm talking to the owner. I'm going to prospect. I'm going to reach out to the owner. If it's an enterprise level deal, right, I'm going to be speaking to a sales director or a VP. Make sense? Make sense? All right. So Mark, let me make sure I understand. Mark's saying you confirm that you're telling people they don't need to know anything about the business they're selling to. No, not what I'm saying. Right? No, not what I'm saying at all. You should know who your ICP is before you pick up the phone to call them, right? You absolutely, so yeah, I don't know where you got that, right? You want to make sure, yeah, ICP, ideal customer profile, John. So your ideal customer profile, you should know who your target audience is. Let me give you, and we're going to get off track here a little bit, but that's okay. We got the time for this. So let me just give you an analogy. If you want to go fishing for bass, you want to go bass fishing, you can't go to Salt Lake. There's no bass in Salt Lake. Does that make sense? If you want to go largemouth bass fishing, you got to go to a lake that has largemouth bass in it. Does that make sense? Perfect. Okay. So again, every business is only in business because they created a solution for specific problems. You should know who are the type of people that would buy that type of solution. So in other words, again, just picking something, if you sell cars, you're not going to target 15-year-olds because they can't afford to, one, they probably can't afford to buy it yet. And two, they probably don't have a license yet, or 14 or whatever. Right? Again, I'm just making something really, out of the world crazier just to drive a point home, just based on what somebody was saying, Mark was saying, right? You got it? We all good with the ICP? Okay. So let me show you what so my ICP, right? They have to have a sales team, and they have to be struggling a little bit, because if they have a sales team and they're kicking ass, chances are, sure, could I help them get to that next level? I could, right? It's going to be more in a private consultation side, but the majority of my business comes from helping sales teams that need to get those basics down, and they use my on-demand course, and it's a lot less expensive, right? So that's my primary focus. So with that being said, I do my research. I build my list first. I do not prospect, by the way, during calling hours. I build my list pre-calling hours, so I'm ready to go when it's time to rock. That's a big thing. I don't sit there and go, okay, who should I call? 10 o'clock. Let me see who I should call, and then do some research on them. Before you know it, it's 10:15. I didn't even make a phone call yet. No, I build my list that matches my ICP. There's lots of easy ways to do that these days, by the way. And then when it's time to pick up the phone, you hit the go button. So when I hit the go button, start dialing, get somebody on the phone, it's real simple. I go, hey, John, it's Michael Pedone with salesbuzz.com. Listen, the reason for my call, I specialize in helping outbound sales teams overcome call reluctance. And if I caught you at a good time, I'd like to ask you a few questions just to see if what we have to offer maybe is some help to you. Would that be okay? Now, if I'm calling a small business owner and he's got 5 or more sales reps, chances are at least 2 or 3 of them are probably struggling with call reluctance. That type of opener, I get 90% yeses. When I first got into sales, I was getting 90% no's because I was calling and I was data dumping, right? Hi, the reason for my call is we provide blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't work that way. See, so what I did was I started to find out, why was I getting too many no's? And I realized I was putting a solution in front. Well, they never even saw a problem yet. Let me show you an incorrect way of doing opening value. Let me give you an example. This would be a bad way, right? Hey, this is Michael Pedone with salesbuzz.com, and we provide sales training. And if I caught you a good time, I'd like to ask you a few questions to see if what we have to offer could be of some help to you as well. Would that be okay? No, we already have something in-house, or we already have somebody else. Do you see how easy it would be for somebody to respond that way? We already have something in-house. We already use somebody else. Because I led with the solution. But when I do it the correct way, where I lead with a problem, I go, listen, the reason for my call is we specialize in helping outbound sales teams overcome call reluctance. And then I get into the permission, right? So look at it this way. Even if they already have a solution in place, which, by the way, most of your prospects that you're calling, most likely, most of them already have some type of solution in place, correct? Yes, Stephanie. Stephanie, it should be being recorded. Yes. But they should be, they already have some type of solution in place. So when I come in and I say, we specialize in helping outbounds, by the way, let me also back up. Do you notice I pause in between each thing? So I let it hang in the air just for a second. I'm doing that so it sinks in. So it's what you say and how you say it. Like we could do like I have a whole master class on just openings that I'm trying to squeeze everything in here. But if there's, I want you to pick up on these little things. Everything's done by design. So I go, the reason for my call, and I quickly pause like that and make it sound like I'm catching my breath, whatever. It's all by design. So the reason for my call, I specialize in helping. And again, that pause there, now that they lean in, like what does he specialize in helping? Outbound sales teams. Okay, I have outbound sales teams. What does he help them do? Overcome call reluctance. Pause for a quick second. Oh, damn. Yeah. I got Joey and Sally. You know, they're not even picking up the phone. And then I get into, and if I caught you at a good time, I'd like to ask you a few questions just to see if what we have to offer maybe is some help to you. Would that be okay? I'm not guaranteeing I can do anything for them. I'm not over promising. I'm actually kind of doing the opposite. Like there's a possibility I might be able to, I just need to ask you a few questions first to be sure. Would that be okay? Their interest is so high and the risk is so low that they go, yeah, sure, I got a second, go ahead. I'm on first base. Does that make sense? You guys with me? That works 90% of the time. Now, the good news is this, the formula is the same. The formula to create a winning opening value statement is the same. You just plug and play and change the words. I actually have 3 different templates that I use. One's the cold call opener, which I just gave you, one's a referral, and one's the competition, right? So that there's these strategies that you can use and plug and play your verbiage in there, and it just works. But what's more important than just handing you a script saying, hey, this works, do this. One of the first of all, I'll be the first to say that most sales scripts create more problems than they solve. But with that being said, don't forget, every Oscar-winning actor and actress all had a script. They just didn't make it sound like a script. So scripts are vital to your success. I would rather you look at it as a playbook than a script, though. Right? So with that being said, you build yourself a playbook. The first thing is to go ahead and pique their interest and then gain permission to continue the call. You have to have that what's in it for them value statement there. I'm laughing because Scott just, he said, hey, might be off topic a little bit, but any tips on getting more people to pick up? And my first, you want to know my gut response would have been? Yeah, just make more sales calls. Right? Just make more sales calls. Sorry about that. I thought I had my phone off. All right. So with that, let's get back on track here because I don't want to lose momentum here. I don't know, Scott, how many calls you're making a day, but you got to outwork the problem, right? If you're only making 20, 30 calls a day, if you doubled that, I'm not a big fan of $100 a day, by the way. If you're making $100 a day, manually dialing, not an auto dialer, but if you're manually making $100 a day, that means your opening value statement's off because what you're saying after hello, my name is not piquing interest. Right. So my thing is this is the optimal sweet spot for dials per day is 60. That includes deals that are calling you back as well as outbound calls. I will give you this one thing. Yes. Okay, Justin, I want to get to that. So I bring you, let's just go to that now. All right. So Justin is saying, I think a lot of you are saying, if I caught you at a good time, give them an easy out. Okay. You would think that on the surface, right? Okay. But what did I do before I said that? What did I do before I said that? I piqued their interest, right? I piqued their interest with the potential, with a what's in it for them value statement. If I call and said I offer sales training, sure, I could easily get no thanks. And I said we're all set. We already do something like that. But they could be paying for they could be paying for sales training right now and still dealing with call reluctance. Your prospects could be paying for a solution and still having a certain problem that your solution solves and solves better. Right? Make sense? So it's all about piquing their interest first and doing that. So one question, so hopefully that makes sense. One person says, what if I'm only calling to pick to schedule a demo? So here's the thing. You want to increase more demos, you got to get them to recognize a problem first. If you call out of the blue and say, yeah, I'd like to schedule some time with our account executive for blah, blah, blah. Is next Tuesday or Thursday better for you? listen, even if I give you a date, chances are your no-shows are high, right? They just say something out of the date, but they're not really committed. They don't know what it's about. If you want to set more demos, if that's your goal, okay, that goal, the setting, so look at it this way, setting the demo would, for you, that would be getting all the way around the bases, correct? You're about to pick up the phone, I got to set a demo. So what does a win look like to you? Took them all the way around the world and got them back to home plate. So you first have to get to first base first. Pique their interest, gain permission to continue the call. So once you do that, so let me just show you how this works here before we do run out of time. So your opening value, and again, I have a whole course on just openers and all the different ways to do it to become a master at that. But once you do that, the biggest problem is, well, what do I say next? Like one of the biggest things I hear is, hey, I took the course, I learned how to get, people on the phone. I'm getting more people than ever to say, yeah, they got a second. I don't know what to do next. Okay. So you made it to first base. You piqued their interest, gain permission to continue the call. Next, qualifying. You're in the qualifying phase. There are 3 sections to qualifying. This is important. Some people go, well, I already know they're qualified. No, you don't. Yeah, I do. They got the right title. Okay, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a deal in the works where the person had the right title and then you went to close and they said they had to check with so-and-so? Does that ever happen? Of course it has, right? Okay, now, in that scenario, there's only 2 possibilities. They are either telling the truth or they are lying, correct? That's it. You go for a close, you go, well, sounds good, I got to check with so-and-so. So they're either telling the truth or they're lying, correct? You see a third option? I don't. So if they're telling the truth, but you try to handle it as it's an objection, you risk jeopardizing the relationship you've been naturally building up to that point. Agreed? Okay. But if you don't try to handle it and they're lying, there's some other problem there, and they're using it as a stall, you might not ever get them on the phone again. Correct? Do we agree? Or did I lose you guys again? We're good. Okay. So qualifying, there's 3 parts to qualifying. The first part is you have to identify if a problem exists that your solution solves. Because if there's no problem, there's no need for a solution. Make sense? You can't go in and tell them they have a problem because they're going to doubt it. So your step 1 of qualifying is to see if there's a problem that you both agree that there's a problem and there's an agreement that they would like a solution for it. If you learn how to do this, your sales go through the roof. This is the master. This is the missing piece for a lot of sales reps right here. You have to get problem recognition. Well, how do you do that? You start by, once you pique interest and gain permission to continue the call, you're on first base. Now I got to get to second. I got to see if there's a problem there. You start by asking an engagement question. So if they just go, yeah, I got a second, go ahead. We're done with phase 1. I'm now in phase 2. I'm in part A of phase 2 because there's 3 parts, and I got to get problem recognition. So now I've got to go ahead and ask an engagement question. Now, here's the beauty of this. And I think I was going to say this earlier, and I kind of got sidetracked. So let me back up. This is all part of the sales playbook, right? What I was going to say earlier before I got sidetracked is it's not enough to hand sales reps a script or a playbook and say, here, go. You as the sales rep will succeed when you understand each section of the sales process and how a sales script will help you bridge from point A to point B. So in other words, if we back up and go to the opening value statement, when you understand that the objective is I have to pique their interest for so much that when I ask the permission to continue the call, their curiosity is so high, and the risk factor is so low that they go, yes. That's how you get 90% yeses, right? So when you understand that's the objective and how it works, you can create your own script to match that works for you. Same thing when you get to, once you get to first base, and now you got to qualify and get problem recognition. Because I see, again, you're asking, well, what's the right question? Well, the first thing is you're in the problem recognition phase of qualifying. And step one is to ask what I call an engagement question. Now, what does an engagement question do? An engagement question puts your prospect's attention in an area that you need them thinking about. You guys want to see an example of how this works? Yeah. All right. So watch this. I'll give you my industry, right? So I'm going to back up. I'm going to do the opening value statement. I'm calling somebody out of the blue, but I did my prospecting. They made the ICP list, or ideal customer profile. They pre-qualify as suspects because they're in the right location, right industry, right company size, right annual revenue. Okay. And so I reach out to them and I go, hi, John, this is Michael Pedone with salesbuzz.com. And the reason for my call is I specialize in helping outbound sales teams overcome call reluctance. And if I caught you at a good time, I'd like to ask you a few questions just to see if what we have to offer might be of some help to you. Would that be okay? Yeah, sure. I got a second. Go ahead. Awesome. I appreciate that. Well, I guess my first question is, I think I already know the answer, but your sales team, are they handling inbound warm leads, or are they doing traditional outbound prospecting, cold calling? Let me just stop right there. That's my engagement question. My engagement question, first of all, did you guys notice the transition? I go, well, I guess my first question is, and I think I already know the answer, right? It sounds like I'm coming up with this for the first time. It's part of my playbook. It's part of my script. Now, you can create something that's for yourself. You want to have that bridge there, right? But when I got to the engagement question, did you notice the purpose of an engagement question is to place your prospect's attention in a specific area that you need them thinking about. So for me, I need them thinking about their sales team. And so I gave them I like the either or. So when it comes to your sales team, are they handling inbound warm leads, or are they doing traditional outbound calls? I could do it the other way, right? I could just create a new engagement question. I could go, so when it comes to your sales team, are they doing outbound prospecting, or are they meeting face-to-face? All right, different question, still an engagement question. It still gets the accomplishment done. And here's the thing. I'm not asking a question that's tricking them. I'm not asking a question that gives me a specific answer. I'm not trying to manipulate them to give me a specific answer. I don't care how they answer. Here's the beauty of it, the right engagement question. They could, when they respond, they could say it's the first, it's the second, it's a combination, it's none of those, it's this, right? So actually, watch this again. First, second, combination, none of those, it's this. Those are the only 4 responses you're going to get when you ask the right engagement question. So I know that ahead of time, and it doesn't matter how they answer, because when they do answer, what are we having? If I ask a question and they respond, what does that mean? What is the definition of when 2 people are conversing that way? We're in a conversation, right? Within 45 seconds, I'm in a sales conversation with their ears up and their guard down. Now, I have to get problem recognition. I'm not done yet. I just got started. So now I have a couple other series of questions. Again, we don't have time to go into, so we're running out of time. But I have a couple other questions that I'll ask that I follow. And then when I get to the end here of this part A, right, I don't move forward unless we establish problem recognition. If we get problem recognition, and by the way, if you're only there to set up demos, by asking this, your demo percentage of booked meetings is going to skyrocket. What's also going to happen is the percentage of people that hold those meetings, meaning they actually show up, is going to increase as well, because you've established a problem, you're agitating a pain, you're scratching an itch, and there's going to be more likelihood that they're going to want to keep that meeting. Now, for me, if I'm only setting appointments and not doing the full sales cycle, I still want to get problem recognition, but I also want to know who I'm speaking to, right? You never want to assume that they're a decision maker based on title alone. Yes, the title will help you, just like when it comes to your ICP, you should know the top 2 or 3 titles of the people who are almost always involved in the sales conversation, but never assume they're a decision maker. You want to button that down. right? So if I get problem recognition, I definitely want to identify their role in the decision-making process. And for an appointment setter, yes, absolutely. If they're the decision maker, that's the point I would go ahead. I wouldn't move any further. I wouldn't go to uncover their hot buttons or time frame or qualifying price or anything of that nature. I would simply go, okay, well, listen, you know, it sounds like there's a really good chance we can help you solve X, Y, Z. I think the best thing to do is for me to set up a 15-minute call with one of our experts. Yeah, you know, and then you proceed from there to set the appointment. Does that make sense? So for you, it's learning how to master piquing interest, gaining permission to continue the call, and then establishing problem recognition, and then identifying their role in the decision-making process. And from there, that's when I would set the appointment. For everybody else, once you identify their role in the decision-making process, I like to uncover their hot buttons on what the ideal solution looks like to them. This is part of the qualifying phase. You want to know why? Because if I'm a full cycle sales rep, I want to now that I've established that there's what the problem is and they agree it's a problem, they want it solved, and I've identified that they are either a decision maker, part of the decision making team, or if they were an influencer who was asked to look into it. If they match one of those three, I know I can move on. And now I want to identify their, you know, what the ideal potential solution looks like to them. I want to do this for two reasons. One, I'm going to write down what they're telling me, so that when it is time to do the presentation, I'm not boring them to tears with stuff that's not important to them. I'm going to focus right on those specific things. But also, too, I want to do this early, because what if we agree on the problem, but their idea of solving it is different than mine? I would rather know that now and then have a chance to inquire. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me. Do you mind if I ask why you were hoping to have a solution that solves it this way? So I can seek first to understand, and then see if I can create an opportunity to get them to see if, okay, thanks for sharing that. I understand your concern. So if we can still solve this, but I had another way that might even be a little bit better, would you be open to that? Right? I want to be able to do this early. Do you see that? Do you see how powerful that could be? You guys with me? Or did I lose you again? No, we're good. Okay. You guys are taking notes. I got you. All right. So once I get that done, then it's to identify the time frame, how much longer do you want to live with this problem? Like, if in a real ideal solution, how soon would you like to have this go away? Type of things, right? Listen, some people might have it wanting to go away right away, but they can't because they're under contract with they just signed a new contract with their existing solution. You would want to know that now before doing a whole presentation, so you could try to handle that earlier, right? Also, if you can get them to commit that, hey, they'd like it solved sooner rather than later, they can't push it off later when you go for a close, right? So there's all these benefits. What I can say is this, and again, I know I'm going through this quickly because we're almost running out of time. All of these things, they're like, you could spend an hour on each one of these and learning these things. But when you learn to master this qualifying stuff, your sales numbers go through the roof. Because the biggest problem that salespeople have, they think it's getting prospects on the phone. It's not. Yes, that's a challenge. You just have to increase your output. What you have to do to get more prospects on the phone, you have to improve what you're saying, and you have to increase your output. Skill plus output equals results. Okay. So it's an easy problem to fix, but it's going to take effort and work on your part. But once you do that, the bigger problem is most people think, they always say, oh, I'm good once I get them on the phone. Well, sure. If they were already interested and you're doing a data dump, you're getting low hanging fruit, fine. But if you really want to increase your close rates, you have to learn how to properly qualify. You have to learn how to master establishing if a problem exists and getting them to recognize and see as a problem and getting them to want to solve that problem, and then properly identifying their role, not assuming they're a decision maker. And then a little trick like I just shared with you guys, uncovering what their ideal solution could look like before ever getting to the presentation to see if to make sure you're all in alignment and handle something. If not, got to pepper in the identified time frame. And here's a bigger one. This one's so controversial. How many of you are taught not to bring up price till after the presentation? How many of you are taught? A lot of you. Okay. So here's the thing. What do you think the prospect is thinking about half the time when you're going through your presentation? Half the time they're thinking about cost. I wonder how much this is going to be. So that means they're halfway listening to you. You want their sole attention on there, right? I learned a long time ago. First of all, if they cannot afford your solution, let me ask you this. Let's say they can make the decision. They need and want your solution. They can't afford it. Are they qualified? Are they qualified? Some people say yes. No, they're not. Now, could they be qualified down the road? Sure, something could change, but you need deals that are going to close in the pipeline, right? So the old way of selling, and it's still popular to this day, is that don't bring up price until after the presentation. Give them such a powerful presentation, so much value that when they hear the price, they're like, oh my God, that's such a great value. Let's sign up, right? That's what we're taught in the sales class when we sign up to in this field, right? But in reality, it doesn't work that way, does it? Right? So, and Deborah, I'm really glad that you said it. So Deborah's saying, my company, the price can vary greatly. Whether you have a set price or your price varies greatly, either way, before you get to a presentation, you should have an idea of what their problem is and what the price range is going to be to solve it if they decide to move forward with you, correct? You should at least, if you're a full cycle sales rep, you should know that, yes? By the time you get to the presentation, you've asked enough discovery questions in the qualifying phase to get an idea of what there's, otherwise, how are you presenting a solution? Right? So if you're going to present a solution, you should have a really good understanding of what it's going to take to solve that with your services. Yes. Otherwise, why are you even doing a presentation? So if you know that, then you should have a good understanding of what the low end and the high end is going to be if they decide to move forward. Yes. Okay, perfect. So Sal says, don't know yet. We have not established a budget for it. We are also checking this aspect. Okay, so here, this is, see, a lot of times salespeople get that at the end when they go for a close. So let's back up here for a second. So Sal, let's say you and I are in a sales call. I'm going to try to get this in because I love this. I think a lot of people run into this, right? But they get that at the end when they go for a close, correct? Right? You get that when asking if they have a budget range. See, that's the worst thing to do. And I know that's a popular sales question to ask, but it's horrible. So watch this. I've already showed you guys an example how I peak interest, gain permission to continue the call, and I gave you an example of my engagement question, right? We don't have time for me to go through all the other questions, but let's assume I established problem reckon there's an issue there. And then I'm going to go here, Saul. I'm going to identify if your role in the decision-making process. Now, Sal, who are you going to be in this? Are you going to be, because I want to role play here with you in a second. So first of all, are you asking the role play, identifying the decision-making role of your people before you get that objection? And if you are you doing it properly? Because there's 5 different categories. Every prospect will fit into one of 5 categories as it relates to the role in the decision-making process. You ready? They're either the ultimate decision maker, which means they don't need anybody else's approval. Part of the decision-making team, which means you need their vote, you want their vote, but their vote alone does not get the deal done. Third is they're an influencer. What's the difference between an influencer and somebody who's part of the team? Influencer has the ear of the decision maker or decision makers, but they do not have a vote. Then you have the end user, and then you have the information gatherer. If you're speaking to if I find out here, right, I peak interest, gain permission to the call, establish problem, and before I go ahead and do a data dump, I'm going to identify their role. If I find out that they're an information gatherer or an end user, or if they're an influencer who is not asked to look into this, I'm not moving any farther. I'm not. I would say, listen, I think we can help, but without so-and-so being involved, you stand almost no chance of getting the solution, right? So I'm going to run a different strategy, which again, I don't have time to get into right now, but I would do that. I would run a certain strategy that would not ask for me to, I don't want to ask to speak to their boss because that's going to be an automatic no. So I have another solution that I plant to see. Next thing I know, they're setting an appointment with me. So on this. With that being said, let's say for purpose sakes, let's say we got problem recognition, identify you're part of the decision-making team, right? I uncover what your ideal solution looks like, it works there, identify time frame. All right, so we're within the right time frame. And now, before I set up the demo or start the demo, I want to qualify you on price. I'm going to say, Sal, you know what? Based on everything you told me, the good news is I think we can help solve it. You're looking at anywhere between, now let's just do some round numbers here. You're looking at anywhere between $5,000 and $50,000, for our system. I know that's a wide range, but it's not going to be any less than $5,000. It's not going to be any more than 50. right? Or you could shrink that down, right? You can say it's going to be anywhere between 10 to 25 grand. It won't be any less than 10, it won't be any more than 25. My question to you, Saul, is if you decide, after you do your research and your homework and you see the demo and you guys discuss it amongst yourselves, if you decide that we're the right fit for you and you decide you want to move forward with us, is that price range doable for you? It's a much better, and if I just ask what's your budget, or if a budget, first of all, the way you're saying, have you established a budget for this? That's a yes or no question. You don't want that. If you ask what's your budget for this, they're never going to want to tell you because they want to get the most they can for the least amount. And so they don't want to give you that number. So what you're doing when you ask a budget question is you're raising their guard back up. We don't want to do that. When I'm very direct and I go, listen, based on everything you explained to me about this, and this, these are the challenges you're having, and this is what you're looking to do to solve it because you want to gain these benefits. The good news is I think we can help. I'd like to explain it to you and you can make your own decision. But based on what you told me, the price range is going to be between this and this. If you like what we have to offer and you decide you want to move forward with it, is that doable for you? You're only going to get a yes, no, or maybe. If it's a yes, you don't talk about it anymore. You just move forward. You start the demo. Because now they can't come back later after the demo and you go for close. They can't say, I can't afford it, right? You've taken that chess piece off the table early. Make sense? Now, when you go ahead, if they say, no, I don't give up yet because there's two types of no's. I actually say this. When you say no, there's just two types of no's. There's no, I couldn't afford that if my life depended on it. And then there's the no, I think I might be able to find something else better, something else somewhere, maybe even better for less. Which no are we dealing with here? And they go, well, I think I might be able to find something else better for less. I'm going to respond, you might be able to, I don't know. But my question to you though is, if once you do your research and after you hear how our solution works, if you decide you want to move forward with it, is that price range doable for you if you think that's the right decision? Well, yeah, in that scenario, okay, cool. That's all I'm asking. So let's do this. And now I'm going to go to F. I'm going to checkpoint and transition, right? If they say, no, I couldn't afford that if my life depended on it, they're not qualified. Just out of curiosity, what were you hoping something like this would cost? I'm just curious. Oh, yeah, we're looking for a $500 solution and my minimum's 10 grand or 5 grand. No problem. I appreciate it. They're on the Ferrari lot. They need to go to the buy here, pay here Kia lot, right? It's really that simple. So it's yes, no, or maybe. Now, if it's a maybe, don't accept that. Because when you say maybe, do you mean like if you hit the lottery tomorrow, or do you mean maybe if you decide that this is everybody over there agrees this is the right solution? Which maybe are we dealing with? I don't know. If we end up liking it, that's doable. Fair enough. That's all I'm asking. So let me do this. How about we do this? Let me do the demo, explain how it works. I'll answer any questions you have. And look, if you like what you hear, we could just take it from there. Fair enough? Yeah, that's fair enough. Ears are up, guard is down. I'm fully qualified. We got problem recognition. I identified their roles, uncovered their ideal solutions, time frame, qualify on price, and now I got them. Everything's working. Time to go to presentation. Right? So, guys, we are out of time. We did get sidetracked a little bit. I hope you found this helpful. Again, my whole thing was for you guys to learn how to sell with confidence. That's on this. There is every one of these stages, there's in-depth training that you have to learn to be very good at it. But I'm hoping that what my purpose for today is to see if I can explain what I've used to become wildly successful as a straight commission sales rep. Know that it works in all industries, right? And give you the confidence and know that there's other solutions that if you learn how to master the opening value statement, if you learn how to master qualifying, right? If you learn how to master the presentation, which we didn't have time to get to, and the closing, right? There are in-depth skills when you map this stuff out and you learn how to master each one of these. You could start your own business if you wanted to, meaning like, and I mean this as we cap out, is like, because don't forget, I've been a straight commission sales rep forever and a day. I never went to college. I barely graduated high school. I grew up poor. Sales was my lifeline. And when I started to learn how to sell, like the ceiling was the better I got at selling, and then the more I managed my time properly, and then I sharpened my skills, the more money I made. And it didn't matter what the economy was doing. And when the economy does crash, like it always does, and things get tight, I was still above that survival mode where everybody else was struggling. And then when the things start to come back, I was at the top, right? And these sales techniques are, let me back up. I've been through the dot-com bubble. You guys remember that? Maybe you've read about it. 9/11, the housing crisis, COVID, the shit we're going through now, right? And I've all been able to come out on the other side very well during it because I know how to pick up the phone. And I've started 2 businesses, sold one for 7 figures, and it was simply because I knew how to pick up the phone and generate revenue. These are the techniques. They're all here. Yes, I have that. Now, if you want to learn more, sure, of course, I'm doing this webinar. Listen, if this is all you needed, that's fine. Totally great. If you want to go ahead and spend a little money and learn all of these techniques in depth, just go to the website right now, salesbuzz.com. Everything is in there. I sell one course. It has all of these things in it. It's all my techniques. I've been doing this for over 12 years, from companies from 3M on down, all use this stuff, and they work. So you can do individual. There's multi-seat pricing. If you have questions firsthand, let me know. Joanna, I'm glad, yeah, you already signed up and you're taking it. Perfect. Yeah. My goal here is to help. And if anything else, share this stuff out there. And if you have questions, reach out to us. I do have to cut you guys off. We're going to have to lose the connection here again. So if you have any questions, just reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you. Fair enough? All right. Take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.